only days left until the transfer window closes, are Chelsea going to leave it to the last minute to sign someone? Does emptying out our bomb squad completely rely on that signing? And are Chelsea's Champions League round of 16 opponents a foregone conclusion, or could there be a little upset? Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today, we're talking about a little bit more transfer news, and the Champions League draw has just been done for the playoffs, right? For the next round of knockout stages that we are not going to be taking part in because we shuffled through quite comfortably, beating Napoli 3-2 on the way to get us straight to the round of 16. So we're going to talk about all of that today. But guys, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so we'll start with Jérémy Jacquet de Rennes. Oh man, this has just been an ongoing one, hasn't it? But there's been an interesting tweet from PYS, essentially reposting something Fabrizio Romano said on one of his videos, and I think it bears breaking down. So PYS posted this tweet, which, like I said, is essentially him typing out what Fabrizio Romano said in one of his videos. Chelsea really want Jacquet now. This reminds me of the Enzo Fernandez story when Benfica didn't want him to leave and then he joined in January. The difference is that Jacquet has no release clause and will be very expensive to let him leave the season. But Chelsea know this and want to try and insist to bring him now. Let's see. Jacquet will be a special player and the race is on. Right. Couple of little bits to unpack there. So we saw yesterday that there was, Chelsea were going to go in and try and get him now for, we're going to, over the weekend, do you know what I mean, tomorrow and Sunday. I think the deadline's on Monday. And at the end of the day, Chelsea want Jérémy Jacquet to join the squad right now. So the interesting comparison there is to the Enzo Fernandez thing, isn't it? Now, it is a bit different because, obviously Fabrizio said in that video, there's no release clause for Jacquet, which makes things more complicated. But I do remember that it was really last minute with Benfica as well, because they really didn't want to sell Enzo Fernandez, and we ended up paying over the amount. But it was like a weirdly structured deal, wasn't it? It's like, we'll pay you more than he's worth so we can get him now, but it allowed us to structure the deal in a way that kind of suited us a little bit more. The crazy thing about this man is like how highly they must rate Jérémy Jacquet at the end of the day. It's a really weird one, isn't it? Because he's just kind of come out of nowhere. This is his first season in professional football with Rennes, but Liam Rosenior must be really pushing for this guy, man. And you can kind of see why. Like, at the end of the day, I just think Chalobah should have started in the Napoli game, and when Chalobah came on later, that's when things shored up a little bit. But Liam Rosenior must not see the qualities and attributes that he wants from his centre-backs, especially starting in big games like that in the centre-backs that we've got. Now, the fact that he put Reece James there says to you that he wants technical quality and ability, right? Now, I've done like a deep dive of the stats for Jérémy Jacquet already. If we sign him, I will do a couple more comparisons to the centre-backs that we've already got, but he's good at tackling, he's an aggressive player, and his passing is good as well. So essentially, Benoit Badiashil's the best passer, but it's generally quality over quantity. So he doesn't make many passes compared to the rest of our centre-backs, but when he does, they're normally pretty good. But what we've seen from Benoit Badiashil is like a couple of error-prone moments. Obviously, Tosin Adarabioyo is just not the level, He's just not the level. And Axel Disasi, we're going to get on into a little bit later, he's obviously not the level either. So what you get with Jérémy Jacquet is a defensive upgrade on the likes of Tosin and Badiashile, but you also get really good passing as well. He is a good short passer, and he attempts more long balls than anyone else that we've currently got. The only worry statistically about Jérémy Jacquet is he is a really aggressive tackler, right? That's kind of like his biggest skill, especially compared to the other guys that we've got. But he does get lots of cards and stuff as well. And maybe you can attribute to the fact that he's 20 years old. Do you know what I mean? He's still really young. So it's really interesting with Jérémy Jacquet. For me, it has to be now. And I've mentioned this before. I don't really see the value in getting him for the next window because you never know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And maybe someone else becomes available, or maybe Aaron Anselmino blossoms, or Mamadou Sarr turns out to be an absolute world beater. Do you know what I mean? If we're going to bring Jérémy Jacquet in right now to bolster our defence, I 100% agree with that. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't think it's worth spending a huge amount of money on him if we're gonna, do you know what I mean? If we're just gonna bring him in next summer. Tell me what you think about that, guys. Do you think Jérémy Jacquet is so good that we should just try and get, even if we can't get him right now, should we just try and solidify that for the next window? Let me know what you think in the comments. So this is now, weirdly, and something I never thought I'd say, inextricably tied, seemingly, to the Axel Disasi move. So yesterday, Fabrizio Romano posted this vis-a-vis Axel Disasi. Axel Disasi close to joining West Ham on loan deal from Chelsea as talks advance to final stages. That's really promising. Disasi was never close to joining Italian clubs despite several reports, and West Ham are now accelerating. So it was all about AC Milan, wasn't it? For ages, it was AC Milan because they play a back three and they needed squad depth, and we've been talking about that for months now. Do you know what I mean? Since we saw the pictures of Axel Disasi back in training with the first team and stuff, it always seemed like AC Milan were going to come in for him. That's not happening, and I would imagine there's probably not much in the way of other European clubs coming in for him either, because West Ham is probably not his ideal solution, but at the same time, he needs to play football. Do you know what I mean? So that'll be 2 seasons in a row where he's swapped royal blue for claret and blue. But at the end of the day, man, he'll get game time at West Ham at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not. Yeah, he'll probably get more game time at West Ham than he would at AC Milan at the end of the day. And he needs to really, really sort out his, professional life, essentially, because he hasn't played football for the last 6 months. So I found another tweet from another Chelsea aggregator. It's not a really, really well-known one and a really, really followed one, but if there is any truth into this, and I can see, do you know what I mean, how this might be the case, how this kind of ties us up with the Jérémy Jacquet deal. So taking it back to Jérémy Jacquet, Trifecta said, Chelsea are in deep creative negotiations with Rennes for Jérémy Jacquet. The Blues want him in London before Monday. 2 frameworks on the table, 45 mil plus Aaron Anselmino on loan, or cash and Axel Disasi on a permanent. Chelsea have frozen the West Ham deal for Disasi until Rennes respond. Total focus on Jacquet. So this is something I've seen in a couple of places so far about basically, obviously what Romano posted yesterday is like we're in the advanced stages for the deal with Axel Disasi, right? But what I have seen from a few other places today is that we've kind of put a stop on that deal until the Jérémy Jacquet thing goes through. Now, the worry for me about that is there any idea at all that if we don't get Jérémy Jacquet through the door, we're just going to keep Axel Disasi and try and reintegrate him into the squad? Obviously, it's not explicitly said there anywhere. But you can only kind of add 2 and 2 together to get 4, can't you? Now, the other thing, obviously, is if we're trying to use him in the deal for Jérémy Jacquet, that's an interesting one, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, Axel Disasi is not going to be worth a lot of money, so maybe we get 20 mil for him if we're lucky at this point, but sub 20 mil would almost make sense as well, because he's just not played, does he? You got to play football to keep your value up. So it could be a case of, if there is any idea that Rennes would appreciate Axel Disasi, then it would obviously benefit us to use him in that deal to get Jérémy Jacquet over the line, rather than sending him to West Ham on loan, because we might be able to get something for Axel Disasi now, which ultimately is better than sending him on loan, because it solves 2 problems, doesn't it? It makes the Jérémy Jacquet deal a little bit cheaper, and it also gets him off our books permanently, because as we are at the moment, if we send him to West Ham, then we're going to have to get him back at the end of the season. We're going to have to go through this whole rigmarole again. Oh, I don't want to go there, I only want to go to Europe, and then we end up with him, I don't even know how long his contract is. I think he's still probably got another couple of years on it, do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a mess, but I think that this is going to be a very interesting weekend. If all is, I guess the best thing that could happen, now I don't know how realistic this is, do you know what I mean? Trifecta is not a massive aggregator, but it's, just something I saw that I thought was interesting to speculate on. This isn't me reporting on it. This is just speculation, because I could see how that could make sense. So we could end up with Jérémy Jacquet now, which is good. We could have sold Axel Disasi to a French team on a permanent deal, which would also be good. And that would also still leave us with Aaron Anselmino on our books, well, not on our books, but with the squad right now. Although, again, there have been rumblings across the media that Aaron Anselmino could be loaned back to Dortmund, and that would seem a little bit crazy, do you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we've obviously brought him back to maybe use him as part of a deal, because it might be a case of sending him to Strasbourg to bring Mamadou Sarr. But do you know what I mean? It's all very complicated. Chelsea do not do transfer business like anyone else does transfer business. We are pulling apart the book and putting it back together and making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So for me, best thing, I guess, best scenario that we could have out of this would be we get Jérémy Jacquet now, Axel Disasi goes as part of that deal, makes it a little bit cheaper, send Aaron Anselmino back to Dortmund on loan, allow Mamadou Sarr to stay with Strasbourg for the rest of the season where he's been doing really well, and let him continue to develop, and then maybe we look at reintegrating him into the squad in the summer. And then Aaron Anselmino probably gets sold in the summer, doesn't he? That is for me, what it looks like maybe the cleanest, simplest, best solution for this centre-back chaos that could be. And then ultimately, we'll look at selling Tosin Adarabioyo, maybe Benoit Badiashile. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm still pretty sure that Trevor Chalobah is going to be out the door in the summer as well. That's just going to be, like I said, I've gone through it a couple of times, but just in a nutshell, if he gets dropped to being a backup player, at the moment he's been our most consistent centre-back and he's played the most minutes out of all of our centre-backs. If he goes from that in a Champions League squad to being a backup, I don't think he's going to be like, yeah, I'll chill around, I'll stick around just because it's Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, I think he'll want to go. And I think there will be zero resistance to that from Blueco because he's an academy player and we'll get cash liquid monies on the books for that as well. So that's it, guys. What do you think of, we've only got a few days before it's all over now. Worst case scenario for me is we reintegrate Axel Disasi into the squad. Best case scenario is that Axel Disasi goes out on a permanent to Rennes. We use him as a make-weight for the Jérémy Jacquet deal, and we have a shiny new centre-back to help us with the rest of the season, and the bomb squad is empty. Do you know what I mean? That just seems ideal, doesn't it? That would be great. So that's all of the transfer news for today, but now we're going to move on to talk a little bit about the Champions League, because they have done the draw for the next round of Champions League games, right? And it's really interesting, man. It's really interesting. The pot of players that we may well come up against has appeared. The draw for who's going to play who has also happened in the next round. And I think it's probably a bit of a foregone conclusion that we know who our next opponent's going to be, but you never know. There can always be an upset in the Champions League. So, who are the 4 teams that we may well end up playing against in the next round? It is Paris Saint-Germain, Monaco, Newcastle, or Qarabag. They are the pot that has been drawn to play Chelsea and Barcelona, essentially. So they have been drawn against each other today, and we know who's going to play who as well. And it's going to be Paris Saint-Germain versus Monaco and Newcastle versus Qarabag. So you would have to assume that it's probably going to be PSG or Newcastle, wouldn't you? Qarabag have, obviously, we know better than anyone that Qarabag have been capable of an upset in this part of the Premier League for sure, but you would expect Newcastle to beat Qarabag, I would have thought, and obviously you would expect PSG to beat Monaco. There could be an upset, don't get me wrong. If we end up with either Monaco or Qarabag, I'll be ecstatic. I will absolutely love that because we love a favourable draw, right? But at the same time, just, football how it is. PSG still not doing quite as well this season as they did last season, but they're still absolutely brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And Newcastle, bit of a flip-floppy basket case club. Sometimes they're really, really good. Sometimes they struggle a little bit, but still more quality than Qarabag or Monaco. So if things play out the way you would expect them to, we're going to end up against Paris Saint-Germain or Newcastle. So we may end up playing Barcelona again or Paris Saint-Germain or Newcastle in the round after that as well. So that's kind of where we're headed. We're getting into the big boy games now. Chances, like I say, Qarabag have done amazing to get this far, don't get me wrong, but I don't think there's a huge amount of likelihood to get through to the next round. Do you know what I mean? So interesting. I thought it was really, really interesting. Obviously, we take on West Ham in the Premier League tomorrow as well, and you've got to think, man, based on how well we're playing versus... West Ham have had a bit of a resurgence recently. They've had a couple of good results, but at the same time, we're on 5 and 6. We've obviously got a better squad. Liam Rosignol, although unusual decision with his lineup going into the Napoli game, hopefully he's learned from that, as he did with Rob Sanchez as well, right? This is the thing. In the first game, he was like, Rob Sanchez, I want you to play super short passing football and ruin your confidence, and then it didn't go well, and then after that he changed it. Do you know what I mean? So the thing with Rosignol that I like so far more than Maresca is he doesn't seem quite as doggedly married to his ideas and tactics. If something works, he will go with it, and if something doesn't work, then he seems willing to change it. Super João Pedro is scoring goals for the fun at the moment, so hopefully he can continue that, because he did score against West Ham earlier in the season as well. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap the video up there. Just a really, really short one today, but like I say, there's so much going to happen over the next few days. I'm going to try and get more content out. I'm going to get back on my shorts as well, so keep it locked. Nice one, guys. Thanks very much for sticking around until the end of the video. If you did, I will catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.